Hello there. Welcome back to Grade 11 Geography. In this video, I want to look at globalization. So we've got a question that we have from the September question paper. So our question reads, refer to following figure, the cartoon on globalization, and answer the questions which follow. So you're given the cartoon that you just need to uh, analyze, and then we go to the first part of our question, which reads, define the term globalization. So the question requires us to come up with a description of globalization, but basically, when you are looking at globalization, it is the process of increasing interdependence and integration among the economies of different countries worldwide. So the interdependence and integration is as a result of the interaction that takes place between nations. So whenever there's an interaction that is taking place between nations, we say the countries are engaging, those countries that are involved are engaging in globalization. Basically, that's what we have in terms of globalization. So at the end of the day, you would see that globalization is enhanced by international trade. When the countries are engaging in international trade, they are also engaging in globalization. So this is made possible by the reduction of barriers to international trade. So when there are no barriers to international trade, it facilitates globalization. In other words, there is easy movement of resources between nations, goods and services between nations, if there are no barriers to international trade. So it is also made possible by the liberalization of capital movements and also made possible by the development of transportation. It also facilitates the issue of globalization. So at the end of the day, we are saying globalization is the term used to describe how trade and technology have made the world into a more connected and interdependent network. So that is what we have in terms of globalization. But of course, according to our question, which needs us to define globalization with one mark, is going to be a brief description that we have of globalization, whereby it reads globalization is when all the countries in the world are living as one global community. So this is just a brief description that we have in terms of globalization. So this is what we have. Then we go to the next part of our question, which is now question 1.5.2, which reads, according to the cartoon, which country in brackets developed or developing benefited more from globalization. So it says that um, the we have got a third world description that we have that is connected to the leg of the cartoon, and would say that whenever we're talking about third world, it includes countries that are poor or developing. So we're seeing that third world are at the bottom, which means they are the developing countries, and the one that is at the top is the developed countries. So basically, now we are saying the one that benefited most is developed countries. So the correct response that we have there is developed. And then I will go to 1.5.3, discuss two reasons why many people are opposing globalization. So basically, this that comes in a way as asking for the negatives, the cost, or the disadvantages of globalization. Of course, there are benefits, there are many benefits that we can deduce from globalization. As countries interact, there are many positives, but there can also be negatives that we can deduce from that. So some of the disadvantages of globalization includes increased competition. When there's a globalization, it means the local products that are being produced in the local economy are going to compete internationally with goods that are being produced from other countries. Of course, it's going to bring competition, which might be a disadvantage if the country is a developing country. So it becomes a disadvantage because it means that the products are going to be outcompeted. And then also another disadvantage that we can deduce there, we can have exploitation of labor and resources, whereby wealthy and industrialized nations end up trade agreements with developing countries in order to exploit weak labor and weak countries. So in that case, we are saying the developed countries or more industrialized nations, they enter into trade agreements so that they exploit the poor countries. So that can also be a disadvantage from the point of view of the poor countries. And then also it can lead to an imbalanced trade in a nation. It can lead to an imbalanced trade, which means we are going to have more imports than what you make from your exports, which is going to lead to a negative trade balance. So that is another disadvantage that we can deduce also, and in a way also it's going to lead to job losses. That is if more goods are being bought from the foreign nations, it means the local industries are going to suffer. Their revenue is going to go down, and we are going to see that some workers are going to be retrenched as firms face high cost of production. That is going to lead to a job losses. So we have got a brief breakdown in terms of the cost that we can face from globalization. So according to the answer section, we can go and see what we have. 1.5.3, we are saying local producers lose money due to globalization as the local customers go and buy abroad, and obviously they're going to lose money. That's what we have on the first part. Second part, people lose jobs through retrenchments. We also have expensive products, cheap quality products. So you'd see that these are some of the negatives of globalization. If we are importing those goods, we might have a scenario whereby we have an influx in our local economy of cheap quality products that are being manufactured outside our nation. So basically, those are some of the points that we can include. So to go to the next point, whereby we go to 1.5.4, which says in a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, a comment on the social and economic impacts of globalization on developing countries. So these are the positives and negatives, whereby we are saying under positive impact, we are saying migration processes become easier and quicker. And international networks make it easier to communicate. So this is after engaging in globalization. We're going to see that we are going to have international networks whereby countries can communicate easily. People in different countries can communicate easily. And also people learn about the traditions and cultures of other nations, which is a positive that people are exploring in terms of other cultures. When they visit those nations, they obviously are enjoying the traditions and cultures of those nations. They also have intervention, international intervention during human or natural disasters can be implemented much easier and effectively due to globalization. And through globalization, a lot of MECs have brought job opportunities to poorer nations. So that is what we have on that part. And then in terms of positive economic impacts, more jobs are created, skills learned, we are going to have also a brain gain as a positive from the country that is receiving those workers that are coming in their nations. Is going to be a brain gain. Of course, it becomes the opposite from the country that has their local workers that are going out. It becomes a brain drain, which is also which comes as a negative impact. So we go to the negative impacts. Whereby on the first part, we are talking about globalization has brought a breakdown in traditions and cultures. It leads to a culture uniformity, loss of family ties, as people move from their countries, leave their families, and they then lead to a loss of family ties. So this is a social cost. And we go to spread of diseases, viruses, etc. has become easier. Of course, due to the migration of people from one country to the other, you see that some diseases are going to be carried from one nation to the other. So that's what we have. Then there are economic impacts is negative impacts. Child labor exploited, brain drain. That's what we have. Then when you're looking at brain drain in particular, we are looking at a situation in which a large number of educated and very skilled people leave their own country to live and work in another country where conditions are better. So that's the scenario that we have. So thank you for listening. And hopefully the video was helpful. And please not forget to subscribe and share. And we'll meet again in the next video.